So this is the same paper from the last class.
Yeah.
We completed the advertisement out of this article, and now this is part B, where you're asked to compare your advertisement with the article, analyzing form, structure, and language for 15 marks. So there's no word limit specified, but we're just assuming that if 150 to 200 words were required for a 10 marker, so you should be writing around 250 to 300 words for this question.
Yeah.
This is just an assumption that we're making. But for analysis of form, language, and structure, now you'll be making a comparative analysis of your work, your advertisement with this article that you originally used to create your advertisement. I'm going to show you a few important techniques before we head on to this. There are these notes that we can just take a look at to understand this dietary writing part in a better way, and then what do you say? We'll get onto the marking scheme as well. Okay. Number one, you need to take an approach as to someone who's checking your paper. Once you're making an analysis of your writing with the original, you need to take a very evaluative approach as to how an examiner would look at your paper and how the examiner would compare the language and style of your writing with the original. Obviously, the two genres are completely different. There's an article that you have, and you're comparing an advertisement with an article. So think about that as well. What an article actually is and what an advertisement is. What is the purpose of writing these two different genres, and what are the connotations of these two different styles? So you need to be very mindful of these two different genres while you make your comparison. Try to understand the function of these two different writing styles as well. I think there's no other important thing here except for, yeah. So again, for a commentary should have a very powerful beginning. Understand the tone, audience, purpose, and genre. These are the four things that you should understand for each of these two writings. For your own as well, if you have written an advertisement, understand what's the tone of it. It's persuasive. What's the audience? Because it's for I remember it's for the art exhibition, so it's obviously for the art enthusiasts, for people interested in art. Purpose, convincing, persuasion, genre, advertisement, argumentative writing. Okay, so you need to understand the tone, audience, purpose, and genre of your writing, and then for the original as well. You're free to make notes on the paper with a pencil because that's something the examiners will not check. So that's just for you, for your help. Okay, so keep taking notes of all of these things side by side on the paper as well while you read through your writing and the paper's original writing for this comparative analysis. Uh, then for tone, what kind of a voice does the author use? Ask these questions. They're very important. I hope you're taking notes for these as well right now, because these are the questions that you will ask yourself. And while you read these passages, then what kind of voice does the author use? Does he or she deliver with anger, happiness? Ye tone hai. Is it like if this article is it written with extreme enthusiasm, asking people to come and visit the art, where they're telling the process in an enjoyment, or where the writer themselves is enjoying the process of explanation, right? For the audience, who would be the typical audience of such a passage? Is it dedicated to someone special? Is it written for a set audience? Is it for a wider audience? You need to think on these lines. Then, why did the author write this piece in the first place? To convince, to entertain, to speculate? You need to think on these lines. Advertisement is to convince. An article could be just to entertain. A report could be to speculate, right? A letter could be to inform, to convey an important information, right? Genre, is it fictional? Is it fantasy? Is it non-fiction, sci-fi, whatever? You need to think on these lines. Then let's look at this example that says the author, Diana Document, really works hard to reiterate her campaign about the environment. Throughout the passage, she fights for the moral values of the earth in her speech and overall creates a powerful atmosphere where she won her audience's vote. Now, this is an example of how you can maybe start writing your commentary. That, okay, I've read this article in the paper, and this is the writer, and this is what they're talking about. This is their tone, and this is how they're engaging with the audience. This is one example of how you can start your commentary. And then you can just explain anything that you want to from this particular passage. And then once you explain, okay, you can take up any formats that you want to. If you want to go with the explanation of the original, then your piece and then an analysis, that's up to you. If you want to pick up certain points, maybe a point of analysis from your passage, then the original, or uska pe conclusion. Then if you want to pick up the second point, comparison, conclusion, you can go with that as well. Format is completely up to you, but you can see whatever suits you. Okay, there are multiple ways of writing this. And okay, this is another example. Just as for the author fights for what's right, she continues to create this stream of consciousness by emphasizing on the potential weapons that they can use to create a more cleaner earth. Again, this is another example of it. Do not create a very robotic tone. Give it a human touch. You're analyzing it, but at the same time, you're yourself a writer who's trying to understand these different pieces of writings and sort of giving your commentary on it. Okay. This what's the tip over here? Examiner will be reading tons of papers since they really need to see how you analyze the text, underline the function, your functions with the evidence. This will be more eye-catching and they can breeze through your paper, allotting you as many marks as possible. Yeah. So if you think where you're making an important analysis, you can underline that information with a pencil. That's gonna give more attention to that particular phrase or that particular sentence. But at the same time, be very careful when you do this thing because you might want to underline every important thing and not something that you have a doubt on because your underlining means the examiner would be more attentive while reading that. So just be very sure that the thing that you're underlining is actually correct. So you don't want to grab the examiner's attention, and then maybe it turns out that okay, this was not important and it was an incorrect underlining. So be very careful with whatever you highlight. Repeat the process for two questions and spend 5 minutes for each commentary. So 10 minutes overall in reviewing your answer. Just check your punctuation and your word choice and spend the last 30 minutes, seconds in adding or deleting any pieces you've written. Yeah, always review your work once you've done. Obviously, you cannot edit information after that, but you can always edit your grammar and style. Okay. That being said, okay, this is all about letters and speeches. We've already gone through this detail. I'm gonna just take you to the commentary part. Okay, yeah. Now another important thing over here is whenever you are writing, whenever you're commenting on style and language, it's very important for you to understand that there is this thing called register. Like register is the type of language used for a particular purpose. Now it can be up, for example, if you're writing an advertisement, you're going to be using words that help you achieve your purpose of convincing people. So that is the register. Every genre has a different register, and it obviously depends on the type of writing you were attempting. Then there's this voice. Voice is the tone that you use throughout the passage. This mood, the emotive presence of anything, right? This formality, informality. I'm sure you know that. Informal language, informal language. This symbolism, right? If you're using any symbols to depict any ideas, this imagery, if you're trying to create a visual, powerful image to present your ideas. And then there are all of these poetic and literary devices. The list goes on. So I'm going to simply share these notes and you can give these a read. You don't have to obviously go into the details कि यहाँ पे similes, hyperbole, understatement, persuasion क्या है, alliterations क्या है. These are all the things that you've already studied. I'm sure in your O levels. I'll just give you this list so you can go through it and you can see if you can identify any of these literary devices as part of the style or language. Do that because it's going to help you make your analysis. Now, once again, we are analyzing based on these things: form, structure, and language. अब इसमें form में क्या कुछ आता है? That's all the things that we just looked at. Your tone, your register, genre, ठीक है? And then your structure is basically how that information is organized. You comment on literally how the information is presented in form of paragraphs, in form of topic sentences, how the writer is sort of presenting one clue first and then another information, and then how all of these pieces are linked together, how what kind of literary representation has been created when all of the information comes together. And then language is basically the final style of writing, the mood of writing, and then all of these devices, literary devices that are used. You can comment on language with the help of these devices. Uh, any questions so far?
No, but could you explain the pattern of the article? Like, what should be in the first paragraph, second, and third?
Pattern of this commentary, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing specific that you're supposed to write in first, second, third paragraphs. Pattern is completely up to you. You can start off by making a general comparison that the article is about this, and the thing that you've written, if it's an advertisement, it's about this. After a general comparison in a few lines as an introduction paragraph, move on to the next paragraph of form. So for in form, you can draw comparative analysis, जो भी हमने points पढ़े, maybe write down about the article first and then the advertisement, and once you conclude that paragraph, provide your own reasoning and remember comparison. बार बार बात हो रही है comparison पे. अगर form, if you're commenting on the form of the article, right at that time, comment in the form of of the advertisement as well, and then compare that how are these two different. Then your next paragraph could be entirely on the structure, and another could be on language, and then there could be a concluding paragraph at the end. So I think this could be a good way to take your writing by commenting on each three of these in separate paragraphs, including
Okay.
one introduction and one conclusion at the end.
Okay.
Let's also look at the marking scheme and see what they're expecting from you. In this particular question, you can compare and analyze the following. For form, the typical text conventions used in the original text in the candidate's advertisement. Look at the text conventions, the ways in which the different purposes affect the content and style of the two texts. Again, consequence or the connotation of each thing has to be explained. ये सब बता के नहीं छोड़ देना कि the writer is trying to use persuasive vocabulary, or I am trying to use persuasive vocabulary in my advertisement. Why are you using that? You want to comment on that. Okay, what is the effect of using persuasive vocabulary in your advertisement? And why is the writer not using persuasive vocabulary in the article? Because they don't need it over there, simply. An article is just a piece of information. They don't want to persuade the readers through that article. Okay, so just also focus on the effects of the text that you're analyzing. Third one, the ways in which the article and the advertisement appeal to the respective intended audiences. For example, through the tone and register. Again, we're again commenting on tone and register over here, and any other relevant aspect of the form on the two texts. So this is what they're expecting from you in the paragraph where you're analyzing for. For structure, the ways in which headings, subheadings, long, short paragraphs are used in the text. You can maybe write about how there are some very extended paragraphs where there's a lot of information. Writers may be writing just two to three liner paragraphs where the information is very important and just want to grab the attention, right? तो ये आपने देखना है कि अब स्ट्रक्चर एक लिटरल एक tangible representation है how all of it is there on paper. Okay, the way in which the title is used to highlight what will follow. You can maybe comment on that. If you've given a title to your advertisement, you can compare that. Beginning with the context of the artist, the cardinal who praised the painting and the background of the modern exhibition to set the scene. ये भी आप बता सकते हो कि किस तरह से in the actual article they're just talking about how the artist is sort of praising how sorry that cardinal is praising the artist, and then it sets up a scene for the entire thing to follow, that how that painting was used in that exhibition, how 400 years of art history are linked by the exhibition, ending with a quotation from the senior perfumer of who concludes this link between the past and the present. देखो अब ये जो usage है different connotations का, different dialogues का, different um, references का, how is that helping the article? ठीक है, ये स्ट्रक्चर है इसका. एक तो विजुअल एग्जैक्ट रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, एंड देन द यूज ऑफ स्पेसिफिक फ्रेजेस, यूजेस ऑफ स्पेसिफिक लाइंस, the specific references, and how all of that is helping particular style of writing. Okay, and then for language, comment on the metaphors, comment on the quotations, visual imagery, alliterations. And then you can comment on how the different scents being recreated with the help of these words: jasmine, rose, spikenard, fig tree, right? So all of these olfactory senses are being evoked through these words. Um, yeah. So this is all about language. I hope you're getting a hang of it. कुछ चीजें समझ आ रही हैं बेहतर अब.
Yes, Anya.
Uh,
And could you please share these notes after the class?
yeah, definitely. I'm sharing the notes. In fact, right now, this marking scheme as well, because you're going to be doing this commentary. So this commentary, this is a comparative analysis in part B, okay, of question number one. Now, the second question is just the commentary. Read the following text, which is an extract from an article from an online sports magazine featuring an interview with South African cricketer Shabnam Ismail. Analyze the text, form, structure, and language. Now, in the second one, you just have one piece of writing. This is not a comparative analysis in section B. This is just commentary on what's written. So I'm sure because we've studied the pattern, this should not be difficult. I mean, इससे ज़्यादा मुश्किल चीज़ हम पहले कर रहे हैं, comparative analysis. This is just a commentary on a single text. You read this properly, following the same ideas that we've just studied. Form, structure, language. You have to analyze. The difference here is that the word limit is more, it's 25 marker. So 350 to 450 words should be written for this one, should go up to 450 words, and focus on all of the techniques that we have learned just right now. Okay.
Okay.
Let me also show you the marking scheme for this one. Mm, Again, for form, you can look at text conventions, the purpose. You see, these are same things that they're asking you to analyze over here as well. For structure, you can look at how the opening paragraphs are written, how the introduction is done, how the text is structured to hold the reader's interest, how how's the chronological order of this text, right? Are there any personal anecdotes written? Then in the language, you can talk about all of these poetic and literary devices. You're gonna get the highest bands if the analysis is sophisticated, coherent, effectively structured. Your analysis itself has to be structured, right? जिसमें आपको कहता है use separate paragraphs for all of these different styles. So you're gonna be marked on your structure as well. Insightful selection of elements, form, structure, language, sophisticated awareness of writer's stylistic choices, awareness of choices. That means whatever you're picking up, why do you think that makes an impact? Why do you think is the writer using that? Or all right, and then the linking all of the evidences properly. Evidences, justifications are those that you pick up from the passage and support your reasoning. बार बार उनको link up करना, उनको effectively use करना, that's all that you marked on. That being said, this is all about the explanation on the commentary. I hope this is all clear. If there's any question, you can ask right now.
Yeah, no questions.
Okay, I'm